Hello there, friends. Thank you for coming back to read with Miss TT. I'm so glad that you did. And thank you to all my new subscribers. I hope that you keep coming back so that you can hear new books, okay? So this is a new interpretation of Goldilocks and the Three Bears, written by Gerda Muller. Let's see what's inside. One evening, a circus stopped at the edge of a big forest, and a little girl called Goldilocks stepped out of her caravan home. Her mama and papa worked in the circus, and the show was about to start. "Can I go and pick some flowers from over there in the trees?" asked Goldilocks. "Yes, but stay on the path," said her mama. "That way you can follow it back to the caravan." "I promise," said Goldilocks, and off she went. The path wound through the trees and into the woods. Goldilocks saw some pretty pink and white flowers and ran over to pick them. When she had a beautiful bouquet, she decided to go home. She looked and she looked, but she couldn't find the path. Goldilocks started to cry. Finally, she came to a clearing in the forest, and in the clearing, she saw a funny little house with smoke coming out of its chimney. Who could live here? Goldilocks wondered. Quickly, she dried her tears and ran up to the house. She peeked through a window and she saw a table with 3 chairs around it, a big chair and a medium-sized chair and a very little chair. In front of each chair was a bowl of porridge, a big bowl in front of the big chair, a medium-sized bowl in front of the medium-sized chair, and a very little bowl in front of the very little chair. The porridge smelled wonderful, and Goldilocks was very hungry. She pushed open the door and went inside. Goldilocks sat down on the big chair, but it was too big for her. Next, she tried the medium-sized chair, but it leaned to one side because it had a broken leg. Finally, she sat down on the very little chair. "It's just right," she said. Then Goldilocks tasted the porridge in the big bowl. But ow, ow, it was too hot. Next, she tasted the porridge in the medium-sized bowl. "That's too hot as well," she said. Finally, she tasted the porridge in the very little bowl. Delicious. It's just right. And she ate it all up. She peeked round another door, which was slightly open, and she saw three beds in a row. A big bed, a medium-sized bed, and a very little bed. Goldilocks tried to climb into the big bed, but it was too high. Next, she sat on a medium-sized bed, but it was too hard. Finally, she lay down in the very little bed. "It's just right," she thought, and she fell fast asleep. Meanwhile, the owners of the house came back from their walk in the forest. They were 3 bears, a big papa bear, a medium-sized mama bear, and a very little baby bear. Papa Bear saw his chair and said in a deep voice, "Who's been sitting in my chair?" Mama Bear looked down at the chair and said in an annoyed voice, "Who's been sitting in my chair?" Baby Bear cried in a squeaky voice, "Someone's been sitting in my chair and they've knocked it over." Papa Bear sniffed his bowl of porridge and growled, "Who's been eating my porridge?" Mama Bear looked at her bowl of porridge and shouted, "Who's been eating my porridge?" Baby Bear picked up his very little bowl and cried, "Someone's been eating my porridge and they've eaten it all up." Papa Bear bellowed, "Someone's been in our house. Let's find them." Papa Bear looked at his bed and roared, "Who's been sleeping in my bed?" Mama Bear glared at her bed and howled, "Who's been sleeping in my bed?" Baby Bear jumped in a fright and cried out, "Look! Someone's been sleeping in my bed and she's still here." The noise woke Goldilocks up and she opened her eyes and saw the 3 bears. Quick! She jumped out of the very little bed, grabbed her shoes, and climbed out of the window. The 3 little bears didn't chase her. They weren't mean bears. They were just unhappy. "Don't you know that you should knock first if a door is closed?" shouted Papa Bear. "And if no one answers, you shouldn't go inside," added Mama Bear. "I'm sorry," said Goldilocks sadly. "I didn't know." She ran as fast as she could into the trees. As she ran, she heard Baby Bear's little voice saying, "Would you like some more porridge?" But Goldilocks didn't look back. She found the path and ran back to her caravan, thinking, "What a nice little bear. I hope his mama gives him another bowl of porridge." Next morning, when Goldilocks woke up, the circus was already traveling to another town. She never saw the 3 bears again, but she always remembered to knock first. Well, friends, that was such a great story about Goldilocks and the 3 bears. You know, you should always stay where you're supposed to be because you just might get lost. And just like Goldilocks, she went into a home that she didn't know about. That could have been really unsafe. But thankfully, those 3 bears were not mean. They were nice bears. But you never know. Just like Mama Bear said, you never go inside somewhere that you don't know of. So friends, I hope that you practice staying safe, always staying where you're supposed to be, and don't wander off. I'm so happy that you came to read with me today, and I'm so happy to see you when you come back. Well, friends, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share with someone you know that will enjoy it, okay? I'll see you next time. Bye.